Hello there, you guys. So I am terribly excited to repaint this video, as when I was painting it for you, I actually lost complete power on my phone and only got 12 minutes of it before I realized that it was not recording. But in any case, I'm really excited to repaint it because this is definitely a style that you guys resonate with, and I can see why. It's so much fun, and I have so many ideas for a lot more of these. So if you do like this style, please let me know. Let's say hi to the birdies since they are part of this active video. Hi, Coco. Coco sits here and watches me paint and hangs out with me. How you doing, Coco? Woo-hoo. You gonna say hello? You gonna say hello? Isn't he so pretty? Coco's so handsome. So he sits here and watches me paint, and then we have lemon and blue. Teal's in there. Say hi to Teal. We got Snowflake doing a little peekaboo, and I know that Sunshine's in there with Pace all the way in the back. Those two are like a mated pair. They absolutely love each other, so they're always together. You can see them all the way back there. There they are. And anyway, my little partner in crime here for painting is Coco. So you will hear him flap around from time to time, and I just want to let you know why. Oh, look at you showing off your feathers. Are you just precious? Do you want to like preen for everyone? Coco's gonna preen. Ready? Go ahead, Coco. Show off. Oh yeah, there you go. Good boy. Showing off the feathers. He loves that. Oh, good boy. Get under the wings. Yes. His favorite thing. Oh, there he goes. He goes and plays. And there he is. Hi, Coco. All right, have fun. I'm gonna go paint now. All right, so there we go. Back to business. So this is one of the styles that I've really enjoyed painting so often in my art journey. I feel like it was originally inspired by an artist called Kandinsky, but I know it doesn't look anything like Kandinsky's, but it's just one of those things where it's simplified, it's based on nature, there are geometrical elements, you know, and I just love the bright colors and the use of them. Also, just simplifying nature down to the movement and the flow is the basics here, right? So we're going to focus on making flowy lines for trees and adding just little leaf effects, right? Instead of a whole tree full of leaves. So it's like simplified down, more of a style that is kind of impressionistic in a way or abstract in a way, but very modern. I think you'll enjoy painting it, and it's really easy for beginners to do, and I think that it's really effective. You'll want to frame these for sure, and you'll want to do tons of them. There's also a little bit of kind of like doodling in there. So in some of the shapes, there'll be like circles or, you know, different kinds of spheres or things like that that you use in these, and I kind of do a little bit of Zentangle type of doodles in them, and I think it just looks really interesting, you know? Anyway, I've got the marker pen. This is the permanent ink pen from my website at Jack's Watercolor. These are great. So far, I have not found other pens that are dual side that are this effective and this color black. I really like them. They dry instantly too. So we're just gonna start basically putting in lines for trees, and notice that I kind of don't go over the same line for the trunk of the tree. I'm using like just flowy motions to get the trees in place, slightly off center always, because if I put them right in the dead center, it just looks like a children's comic coloring book, you know? You always want to kind of like shift things so that the eye leads back and forth. So putting different things on different sides of your paper also really works. But as far as the tree, just have fun doing those flowy lines, putting in that ink, and don't overdo it. Do it more minimalistic because you can always add later. I think one of the things I do with the trees is I always make the base of the trees very twisty, and you can see here that I'm just
kind of bringing those lines down and doing it in a fluid motion. I'm also thinking about breeze and tree growth towards sunlight or tree growth away from sunlight. So just kind of being mindful of the way trees are is something that is in my mind when I'm painting trees. Actually, this time of year, being fall, is such a great time for you to start studying trees. So go out for walks and just enjoy this weather as the leaves change and they start to like sparse away from the trees. You'll start to see more branches and you'll realize how many branches there actually are in the trees. So to represent a tree, you don't need to draw that many branches unless you're doing a more realistic tree, but at the same time notice that trees are not all shaped like circles. They're not all the same. So you want to just kind of reflect that if you want a semi-natural look or something that makes sense to the eye so that it doesn't look very coloring book, because I think this style can easily go into like a childlike doodle if you don't find that balance, right? And when you do find that balance, it just works. It works so well and it's so easy. So let's just add in just a couple of leaves. This is just for style. This is just to reflect that there are, I don't know, it kind of tells the eye that there are leaves on the trees. It makes us more mindful of nature. It makes us think about nature, and it also makes you feel more of like warmth, rather than if the trees had no leaves, you would feel more cool. You know what I mean? Like more winter. So I do want to put some leaves on the trees, and then depending on what color we paint those leaves, that's going to reflect a season that easily. Then just kind of twisting out those tree stumps is really just something that I do personally. You don't have to do it that way. You can do it any way you want to, but it's something that I like to do. I usually even make them more bumpy and twisty, but we're just going to keep things really fluid here on this one. There's also some geometrical shapes representing nature, and within those shapes there's going to be layers. It's kind of like the layers of earth. It's mostly symbolic, and you can do any shape you want. You don't have to do the circles. You don't even have to do them at all. You can do something else. But I just like them for this piece, and I think it just gets me thinking about things. Now here's all those little doodles, some of them being Zentangle training, and some of them just being layers, like the little stones kind of make me feel like more connected or more in tune with nature by adding them. I feel like it's a great texture for a nature piece, and these little fluid lines can kind of represent water or layers of earth, and of course just kind of switching up the directions of the doodles is really helpful as well, because the eye will read it as different spheres and different layers. Then we're going to put a doodled sun in the background. This is just like stylized. I've tried this one actually without coloring or inking in any patterns, but I really prefer the patterns. I think it's more interesting. And you'll see, well, you saw at the beginning of the video where that really is effective. You know, it's a place where we can add some more color, and I really like it. I think it's neat. I think it's part of the style personally. And if it wasn't there, I don't think this would be as interesting without it. I don't know. What do you think? So I'm still using the fine tip of the pen. You could also flip this pen over if you wanted some heavier lines, but for this one, I decided to just kind of do it all in the same weight, pressing down a little bit heavier in some areas and going a little lighter in others. Now I'm going to be taking my flat brush in the 1/2 inch. This is also a brush from the website. I like this one because it holds a lot of paint. You can get those really nice washes of color. This is Azo Yellow from my watercolor honey pots, And it's also available in pans. I believe I sent this out to you in a previous subscription, so you might want to check your subscriptions if you want to test out the color and use the same one. I'm kind of sticking to these warm color tones. I also mixed in a little bit of sunshine into this because I love the quality of sunshine, and I think it mixes well with the azo. Then just putting in a little more azo in areas gives us that kind of like streaky background and adds a little more warmth, and I really like that texture. I think that's very, very in tune with the way nature is. It just feels really good on this, you know. If we just used a flat transparent all the way through, I feel like you need a little bit of texture on these, otherwise it can look a little too simplistic, and adding textural paint is nice. Now this is the French Sienna from the current watercolor subscription this month. This one is in the quarter pan that you received for October in the pumpkin patch set. It's really, really nice. And now I'm using the transparent orange from the pumpkin patch set. Also an incredible color, and in my opinion, even though oranges aren't typically a staple to a watercolor palette, I just love this one. I don't think I could make this one if I had colors to mix together. It's just so bright and so transparent, and it's just one pigment, so you really can't come up with it any other way. PO71 is just one of those colors that if you can find the pigment, it's really quite intense and such a bold color. It's perfect for this season and perfect for pretty much any season, you know, because you can use it as a mixer as well when you don't want heavy granulation. Another color I'm using is Tempting Teal, which is a member of the Earth Pigment family. It's a lovely green, and it's made with 100% natural Terra from Italy. So it's sourced with yellow earth, and it is just such a great color. You can use this in mixes, and it's purified with using hammer mills, which is really interesting the way that they break it down. Then I used the cobalt blue, and this one is a zinc illuminate blue. It's PB72. It's really granulating. It's very fun to use. It's kind of a watercolor staple for any palette, and I think you'll really enjoy using it in different mixes. I have a video coming up where I swatch out and mix all of these colors and show you how to mix them and things that you can mix them with. I think you'll really enjoy that video. Anyway, I'm just letting these colors kind of mix on paper. Some of it is dry and I'm keeping it separate. Some of it can just bleed into the other. Unless you want your spheres to bleed into the yellow, you want to make sure your yellow is dry before you add this. Of course, I don't really wait that long. Sometimes you'll see me dry around it a little bit, and that just gives me a little more texture, which I happen to like. But if you don't want that look, just let your paper dry and then start adding the layers, and that makes it just a whole lot easier. Isn't this a simple one for beginners? I think it's a really simple tutorial, and I would paint a lot of these, you know, like I can think of so many different ones. There's an Asian tree painting that I did a long time ago in this style, and it's still my favorite, one of my very, very favorite paintings. I'll have to do it for you in an upcoming tutorial so that you can try that style too, because I'll definitely be doing more of these, and I think you guys really like them. And definitely leave me a comment below if you do want to see more of this style. So now I'm just kind of going back in and charging in more colors in areas that I feel that I want. Like I'm kind of framing, if you notice, this piece out with a little more texture of the azo on the edges, and leaving it a little more bright with the sunshine in the centers and around the sun. And then I'm going to take this cobalt teal, which is just one of my favorite colors, PB60. It is so hard to get. It's such a rare color, but I happen to have it right now in the store, and I'm just going to go ahead and paint over this entire thing, and then we can remove a little bit in areas that we don't want there to be so much cobalt teal. It's a great color like that. It is really interesting in mixes too, because it is a very thick blue, so it will give you some really different ranges in greens, and it can offer some kind of scrubby coverage, which I really like for a watercolor. I think that this is just one of those almost like cobalt, where you have a nice mix of like really bold color. There's the ability for it to have coverage, but then there's also the ability for it to be removed, and you can mix it easily with a lot of things, you know. It is a little bit tricky when it comes to the thickness of this paint, because naturally it's just a very heavy pigment, but I just love it. I think texture wise it's just gorgeous. So I'm just taking my brush, cleaning my brush off and drying it, and then pulling back some of that color. This is a great brush for this. Also, if you have an angular shader from Jack's Watercolor, those remove colors really, really well. So whether you have this particular brush that I am now selling in, I think a half inch and a full inch, I use them a lot. I really do. And this is my petal brush, which has that really, really cool ability to do those fine lines. It's got a nice weight to the bristles, so you have that like nice mix of firmness, but also that flexibility of a watercolor brush. Those are also available on the website. I actually have to hand cut those each, but I do a pretty good job getting them out pretty fast. So if you do like them, they come in 8 and a 10. This one is the 8. It's got a nice fine tip, and I can even lay in the gold with this watercolor brush. So if you were going to take one brush with you anywhere, especially to travel, this one is done in a travel brush set. So I mean like travel brush style. So you can just get this one brush and literally take it on vacation with you and not really need anything else with you. You know, you can get away with it. You can paint so much with it. I really love it. Yeah, this is turning out good. So I'm just kind of layering in some more colors, mixing the green with a little bit of blue that's in my brush and starting to tap that in. Again, with these, if you don't want the bleed, just make sure it's dry before you put them on. This green will layer over the yellow perfectly. In fact, it will give it a little more depth and dimension, and variety in color, depending on, you know, how much azo you laid underneath it. So when it reactivates and gives you that layer on top, it just, I don't know, it makes a really pretty green without having to mix. So very easy to do. So you could imagine doing this style in a sketchbook, right? Easily, you could do page after page, because you don't really have to mix anywhere else other than just kind of mix everything on paper and just enjoy adding and removing color. Yeah, not much else to say about it other than I just really, like I said, love the style, because I feel like it's very simple, but it's very effective. I could imagine this being like great for cards and storybooks, and even like more modern, if you want more modern art, or somebody is a modern art lover, they would, or had like more of, I don't know, like a clean white background and they needed a pop of color on the wall. This would be the style that would be just so beautiful, you know? It's also a style that's like really simple. So I think if you were going to give a gift maybe to someone, or give a gift to a man, it probably would go over very well, because it is a little bit more modern, right? It's not like a floral, even though it's a nature-inspired piece. Anyway, just drying off the back, and now I am going to add some liquid gold. I love this. Don't you just love liquid gold? I just made it in a silver, and it turned out really good, and I made it in a copper. So far, I have the 3 colors available. I did create a separate listing on Jack's Watercolor just for metallics and pearls, because I have ended up making so many of them for Christmas. But yeah, if you want this one, you can go on Jack's Watercolor and just look for the metallics and pearls. So this is a water base paint. It does offer coverage if you want it, or you can liquid it down and just add a lot of water and it will be more of a light layer, but you can use it very thick like this. Just wet your brush so that it reactivates, and then dip it right into your honey pot, and you can foil anything. It looks like you have just added gold, real gold, to your painting. I don't think you could get this effect from a pen because most of those are like oil markers. This is actually a pigment, so it's finely ground, and it kind of looks and feels when it's dry like gold foiling. And then as I start to melt it into the layers of binder, it takes a very, very long time to make and to bind, but once you get it bound, it's really beautiful, and it just stays. It's like a very heavy pigment suspended in binder. So you'll have an easy time using it as a watercolor. It is non-toxic, surprisingly, and I think it does a great job on these things. It's very reflective, you know, almost chrome-like. I think the silver one and the copper one look very much like that too. They're very, very super shiny. And I'm looking at doing a couple of other colors in this as well. So we'll see. We'll see. I have to test them and, you know, work on them. And if they come out, I let you know right away. Anyway, I'm not golding all of this. I'm just doing it for effect. I want just little hints of gold coming out within the watercolor. So I outline some of the shapes that I want to highlight. This is a good time to just kind of pick and choose and even add some non-inked areas of gold so that we can just have that texture, that layer, you know, of detail. And that would be more of, in my mind, inspired by things that I'm thinking of, like nature. So you could just add any shape that really appeals to you or that you're thinking of when you're looking at this piece. It could be a texture that you do, like maybe you'll do stripes or different shapes going through the blue, or, you know, even some shapes alone just highlighted by the gold. There's all kinds of things that you could do here to make this piece your own. Just think of things in nature, you know, if you want to fill little pebbles or stones, or put some additional plants in the background with the gold. You could do so many things. So remember to keep wetting your brush as you're adding gold so that it doesn't go on too thick. Every time I wet my brush, it just kind of gives me that like fluidity, you know, especially on this brush because it's got a nice big belly and it goes to that sharp point. So that point is being fed the watercolor and the water just by holding it in the belly of the brush, and that like keeps the tip going so that I can keep using it. But I am re-dipping often because I want that coverage. Even though it's a very thin line, I want to make sure that I get all that coverage in that one line, in that one stroke. Otherwise you could get a little bit of dry brush effect just because we're using it so thick and heavy. Now I'm just kind of going over, holding my brush more towards the end also helps me get very fluid lines. It's funny how in tutorials people don't really talk about how to hold the brushes, and I'm not really sure because it really makes a huge difference. You know what I mean? The other thing I also like to do with these when I'm painting is kind of like lift my wrist up and practice just kind of rolling the wrist up and down a little bit and just kind of doing that stroke motion. It comes more from my shoulder and my arm, but if you don't have that kind of flexibility with your shoulder and your arm, or you have any kind of pain, then you could lean your wrist on top of your other hand a little bit, or on top of your watercolor tin, and that will lift it up so that you can get that motion going. Little practice makes perfect. Now, this is actually on the practice paper, so I'm not using the bohong paper or the 100% cotton paper included in the monthly watercolor subscription. This is just the practice paper, but I wanted to do it on the practice paper because the original that I painted, that I only recorded 12 minutes of the painting because my battery died, that was done on 100% cotton. And you can see that even the practice paper paints so well. If you just develop your techniques and you are just kind of mindful of your practice, you will get just as good results on this practice paper that I send you, because it's a very, very good quality paper that you will with using your best, finest papers, So it gives you the ability to practice, and you can do a lot without, the huge expense of spending on 100% cotton. I would save the 100% cotton, more expensive papers for when you've developed your style, you're well practiced, and you want to repeat this onto something that you frame or give away, Even though I can tell you this paper is going to last really well. The only thing you can't do with this paper is rework it, because it's just not durable enough. It's not built with all of those layers and the sizing and everything that goes into the more expensive papers. I mean, believe me, even though paper seems expensive, the amount of work that goes into the 100% cotton papers that are heavyweight, double-sided, can be reworked, all of that is worth the little bit of extra money that you spend on them. It really is. There's nothing like them. They're archival. They will not break down, and you can just do so many other things. But if your techniques aren't that advanced and you're just doing really simple things, then you want the experience of it, because you will paint differently on it and you will see different results. But overall, do you need it? No, you can do these practice papers that I send in the watercolor subscription, and they will work out just fine. All right, so there's my original, and there is my repainted version. On the original, I did let the blue bleed a little bit, and on the new version, I just kind of went right inside that line so that it didn't bleed, even though it was wet, just for a different effect. But overall, they're very similar, just a little different, and of course, different size. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget, all of the supplies are available at jackswatercolor.com if you do need them, and I ship all over the world. Otherwise, enjoy this, take this challenge, and I will be picking a winner in 1 month. So all you have to do is post to the group page and use the hashtag JacksArtChallenge so that I will know this is for a challenge. Post it to the main wall, and you can also post to our strings, because the strings will get you some really good feedback along the way. But remember, if you want to do the challenge, you do need to post to the main wall. Otherwise, we might not see it, even though I try to keep up with the group. But it is over 100,000 people right now, so it can get lost just a little bit. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much for taking the challenge and supporting this entire journey. I'm so glad you're with me. And if you are here, then you are a wonderful, incredible person that I appreciate. And I really love that you're part of this whole thing that we're doing together. I think it's inspired a lot of people, and it's been offering me so much value in my own life. Have a great day. Be blessed, and I will catch you on the next video.